Welcome everyone to the Rush to Fail podcast. Today we have Mitch Jessop with us, and I've known Mitch now for a couple years, know each other from church. He also has a really cool background and story that we'll obviously get into. And so, Mitch, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I was excited when I got invited. I was like, I don't think I'm cool enough to be on a podcast, but I'll take it.
You know what? I was joking. Yeah. With others that said the same thing. They're like, well, aren't you in real estate? You know, like, I don't know if I can contribute to that. I'm like, no, it's about failure. And they're like, oh yeah, I can talk about failure. Yeah, let's go. We can totally do this.
So I can do that.
It's a common trait we all have, and it's just fun. I enjoy talking about it. So anyways, tell us about yourself if you don't mind.
Yeah. So a little background on me. Grew up in Logan, Utah. So Logan, Cache Valley boy, if any of you guys are familiar with Utah State. I've kind of done like odd end jobs for my whole life, really, I'd say. Like growing up, I was always doing landscaping or construction. I did a lot of demolition, which I loved. Got to take out my anger on, old houses. And then, graduated from college and went straight to work for Qualtrics, which is a market research and survey software company. Got acquired by SAP for $8 billion after I had left. So there's a little failure. Wow. I left a lot of equity on the table there.
Wow.
But yeah, I jumped over to Visa shortly after that, was there for quite some time, left as a director, went after that to a tech company in the payment space as well, was a director of sales over there, and then did a short stint just recently as a CRO, head of sales for another tech company. It was seed funded, and now currently starting my own personal venture as a founder of my own payments and merchant services company. So that's a little bit about me.
Merchant services is something that I know that we've talked about. I still cannot wrap my head around it. Like, it is so nuanced and so different, and it's just a different world that I've never even knew. I mean, it exists, obviously, clearly, but it is such a nuanced thing, right? Like, it's probably difficult for you to because that's now the business that you started, right? Mm-hmm. So, is it difficult, I guess, to get in the door with people, to even have that initial conversation? Because they're like, why do I need you? And what are we doing here?
Yeah, no, it is. And you're not alone in saying that. Good. Like, it's just this like weird, confusing world.
Yeah.
Just because even when I was working in payments, I was in payments for 6-7 years. And nobody, like even in the space who'd been there for 15, 20 years, the average tenure of a person like working at Visa when I was there was like 15 years. So I was like the young buck. Wow. And just trying to hang around and catch up, in terms of knowledge. And those guys had been there 15, 20 years. And even they would always be the ones to be like, I don't know what this new thing is. Like, it's always a new emerging technology, new mandates, new things that are happening all the time in the space. So it's always that way. So you're not alone in that. But yeah, getting through the door, getting people to recognize, what's happening in the space and why it does make sense to have a conversation and see if there's a fit to help them is a little bit tricky. Sometimes people don't even know, like they hear payments and they're like, well, does that mean like, I'm making a payment? Does that mean I'm accepting a payment? Like, there's so much there. So, on my end, it's a payment acceptance. Like, we help you to accept payments. But a lot of why I got into this world is obviously my knowledge and experience in that space, relationships. But, I'm sitting here watching like the likes of Stripe and Square and some of these other big players in the space. And I'm just like, man, if people knew what I know, they'd realize, like, and not to paint them out as this bad companies because they're helping people to accept payments and get paid.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if they knew anything about, the space, they'd recognize like they're getting raked over the coals, right? In terms of their pricing. And so I really was looking to try and help merchants to obviously have solutions that help them to grow their businesses.
Yeah.
But at the same time, save them money too, so.
So what would be like your avatar? Like who is your perfect customer that you go after that can benefit from something like this, what you do?
That's a great question. And I feel like I'm still honing in on that a little bit. like currently I'm just like, I'll take anything, right?
Yeah.
but I mean, right now I'm honing in a little bit more on the dental space. So yeah, dentists, orthodontists, DSOs.
Lots of those in Arizona.
Yeah, there's a lot of those there, and Utah.
Smart.
So have a good target market there. But just because I have some solutions that directly integrate with their softwares that they use to manage their customers, and so have some solutions that can help them to not only save some money but grow their business with other payment methods. So yeah, but then outside of that, I mean, I've helped everything from small shops, auctions, to large organizations selling supplements. I mean, we can do anything and everything.
So anyone that accepts credit cards, payments or whatever, like you're the one that you can do it for a fraction of the cost, I assume. Than Stripe and those other companies. Yeah,
I mean, we could go into the nitty gritty of it. Essentially, there's what's called interchange on credit card processing. So each card that's used to transact, there's always a cost of doing business. We've all heard that.
Sure.
But the people who are taking that little bits and pieces off that transaction is one, the card brand. So Visa and MasterCard. If you remember, if you have a Visa or MasterCard, did you get it from Visa or MasterCard?
No.
You didn't, right? You got it from an issuing bank.
Yep.
So Visa and MasterCard, they want a piece of that transaction, but also your issuing bank who gave you the credit card, they want something.
Everyone's double dipping, okay.
So, and they're offering you things like rewards to use those cards, right? So they have to make it make sense for them. So there's what's called interchange, is taking, what the issuing bank takes and what the card brand takes.
Yeah.
And then anything above and beyond that is gravy for the merchant service provider, in this case, me or Stripe or Square or whoever else, right? Yeah. And so interchange varies drastically by card. And specifically, like if you're using a debit card, like 70% of card transactions in the US today are debit, which you wouldn't even think. Like,
wow.
I was amazed by that statistic, because I'm like, I feel like everyone uses credit cards. Yeah. But no, like most people still use debit. And a debit transaction, interchange on a debit transaction is like 50 to 100 basis points. So we're talking 1% or less. Yeah. Whereas the average transaction, cost in America by the likes of a Stripe or a Square is like 2.9 and 30 cents per transaction, right? So they're taking, almost 2% of your equity just to process your payment. So that's where I was like, well, why can't I step in here and help people save some money?
Fascinating. I think I get it now.
Hopefully nice you work. Get it. Hopefully
it might, just be forgotten by the time I go to bed. But I get it now. That makes total sense. So clearly, especially someone that does volume, which dentists do charge quite a bit, and I think that they are probably a great place to start. So dentists, and then I guess after that, are there, I imagine like contractors that do quite a bit of volume with, buying materials, those kind of things. Are they also? Yeah,
I mean, contractor, it just depends. There's a lot of the time, it's whether or not they're actually using a credit card or a debit card. There is what we call ACH as well, which is like bank-to-bank transfers or direct deposit type stuff. And so, or, a lot of invoices will be sent using ACH. To plug in your banking information, your bank account number, or a bank account number, and then routing information. Right. But I mean, like it really just, if you're accepting credit card payments or card payments in general or ACH, I can help with any of that.
Cool, love it, man. That's so cool. So, okay, so you got that business going on. In the meantime, you're also working for who again? So I am doing. Or are you just focused on this now?
I've focused on this for the time being. Okay. Cool. In the next couple of weeks, I'll probably be starting a job as well with Domo.
Oh, okay.
So they do like analytics software dashboards. Just basically providing you data and insights for your business and metrics that you want to track. So
awesome. Yeah. Okay, well, one of the things that we love to obviously do on the show, and what it's all about, is just learning about or learning from some of the experiences that we've had in our life that have maybe been considered a failure at the time, or a big trial that has propelled you to bigger and better things, right? And so and I don't know if you have any examples of things that have happened in like your family life or business or whatever, but do you have any experiences that that you wouldn't mind sharing?
Oh yeah. This is why we got here on the podcast, right? So, I love he's over here. He's getting excited. So I think most people are probably like me. I mean, maybe they're not, but I know, speaking to your failures and mistakes is, we all make those, right? And I think what I like about the idea behind this podcast is like understanding that failure is the best teacher.
Yep.
And so like, I look at my life and the accumulation of mistakes that I've made and failures that I've made, maybe not crazy, like life shattering failures, but I mean, I've had my fair share of things that I've done, and I look back and I'm like, well, that was kind of dumb, know? And I think in particular, I could probably label a lot of those failures under kind of an underlying theme where I prioritized just making money and getting rich fast. And I started looking at like my life and saying like, dictating my happiness and fulfillment in life based on my status, financial, status, if you will. And I think the quickest way to get to become unhappy is by just chasing money. And so I looked at, I fell victim to a lot of those get rich quick schemes, if you will. I mean, I look back at my life and I'm like, wow, even within a short period of time in my career, I launched an Amazon business. I tried to write a book and have a ghostwriter do it because I wasn't willing to put in the time, right? I had...
Really? A book about what?
Habits.
Okay.
Yeah, best business and life habits. If you go look it up, you'll see it's gotten probably 5 sales.
Really? So you actually completed it though?
I did complete it. Yeah, I completed the book. Hey,
that's saying something.
But the launch of the book was very unsuccessful. I like I said, I launched an Amazon business selling heatless hair curlers.
Wow.
So, I mean, again, like all these ventures were just short-lived because I was trying to win at playing somebody else's game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, I tried to do the day trading thing. I spent money on programs to teach me how to trade options and futures and all this stuff. And, I'm just losing money in the market left and right. Right. I mean, I jumped into the affiliate marketing world, and threw some money at that. And honestly, I mean, in all of these things, I learned a lot. But I would say my biggest learning was just like, you got to start small and start where you're at. Don't try and win in somebody else's game, because the fact of the matter is, like, that's why they're winning. Yeah. Because they know it. They started where they're at, And so it's not to say that you shouldn't go and learn new things and master new crafts. But, I think I learned really quickly that, I just need to play ball where I play within the lines that I know how to play within and the rules that I know how to play by, and I'll see more success that way. And also, at the end of the day, money isn't everything. Yeah. We've heard it time and time again that money doesn't bring you happiness. And if you're making a certain amount to where you're comfortable financially, more money doesn't mean anything to you. In fact, it's just going to bring you more problems out half the time, right? And so I learned really quickly. In fact, I think of a story that really stood out to me, and I may have told this to you in church actually at one point, but there was I was at a birthday party with my son. My oldest son is 7, and we were at Airborne or some jumpy house place. There's just trampolines all over the place, and there's just hundreds of kids, I felt like, running around in there, tons of stuff going on. I'm overloaded, wow, this is sensory overload. Yep. There's music blaring, they got pizza and candy everywhere, and it's these kids are just this is the dream, right? Yeah. And my son starts hanging out with this other little kid there, and they run over to me and that kid's mom. And they're like, hey, we want to go play like the arcade games. And I'm like, why? Like, you got all this stuff, you know, like, why are you going to play with these arcade
so
games?
Familiar. Yep.
And I, of course, being the good dad I was, you know, money focused dad, I'm like, you know what? No, like, I'm not giving you a dime, dude. Like, go jump on some tramps. And this mom hands this kid a $20 bill. And I'm like, what is she doing? Like, this kid's going to go and gas $20 while he has all these other things to keep him entertained.
Yeah.
And he'll probably end up losing it.
Yeah.
So not 5 minutes later, they come running back. Kid's crying. And he's like, I lost the money, Mom. So guess what she does? She pulls out another 20.
Oh, wow.
Hands it to the kid.
Yeah, this is painful.
And sure enough, 5 minutes later, that kid comes back. Lost that as well. And you want to know what she said to him?
Huh.
She said, the best mistakes in life will only cost you money, son.
Wow.
And that hit home for me.
Huh.
And that was a lesson where it was like, look, you've been searching your whole life to try and make money. When in reality, like, the best mistakes in life are just going to cost you money. They're not costing you time, relationships. They're not costing you the things that matter most, right? Yeah. And so that was a good life lesson for me, I would say. In all of those, you know, the underlying theme of just got to make more money, you know, got to have the nice things, the fancy things, and at the end of the day, they don't mean anything, you know?
Man, it's there's so much that we could dissect from that. And you know, I was thinking too about, I saw or read something last night, and it was talking about how when you're sick, the only thing that matters is your health, right? And you realize, man, like, it really is important to be healthy, right? But you rob from your health every day when you make these, you know, poor choices with, you know, food or not working out, those kind of things, that just, you're taking out these deposits, right? And then eventually you're going to pay for it, right? In the long run, and your body's going to just stop and just say, hey, and then all of a sudden it's really important. And I think it's the same thing with what you're saying with money, where, yeah, I mean, it gets to a point where, you know, we're in this hustle and bustle, and then, you know, every once in a while you'll be humbled and realize, like, what on earth am I doing all this for? Like, I go to work every day and I'm slaving to make this money for what? You know, it doesn't do anything. Like, it's not exciting. And so I love that. And it's something that you said really resonated too, and it's funny that you've jumped around, you know, to these different opportunities. You're not the only one. I think any entrepreneur, and most people that will be on the show are going to relate, very well with that. Right. And, in real estate specifically in my industry, I think it's probably the most guilty of it, because there really is that shiny object, like, oh, like right now it's wholesaling, or it's flipping, or it's new construction, or now it's land, or now it's, and so what you do is, and every couple, I would say every couple of years, it's like a new trend, like, this is where you need to be, this is where all the money's at, and so you jump ship and you go to that, and then you jump ship, and then you realize there was a guy from New Western that it's a wholesale company, nationwide, and I got to listen to him speak a couple weeks ago. And the thing that he said that resonated with me was, he was like, look, I am just more patient than all of you. Like, there's no reason why I'm like, cause he's very successful. He's run a very large organization, and they do very well. But he's like, all it comes down to is, he's like, all of you guys have seen all these shiny objects, and you guys have jumped all over the time. And guess what? All that momentum that you had, you just got rid of it. And then you had to start over. And guess what the hardest part is? It's starting over, you know? And so you have to expend all this energy. And then right when you're probably getting like inertia and you're getting momentum, I don't think if we can look back on our lives, we're like, why did I pull the plug right there? Like, I was there. Like, yeah. I just needed another year, and it was over. Like, it was going to work. Like at your job, where you're like, why did I leave a year early? Right. You know, I could have had all that equity. And so anyways, I love all of those. There's so much to take from, you know, that experience that I think a lot of people can definitely relate with. And so anyways, I love that. So lesson learned there. What would you say? Yeah, I mean, lesson learned, you know, from a business standpoint, you know, to your what you just talked about. I mean, I think it's extremely critical that you stay patient,
you have to have an abundance mindset. Like at the end of the day, like I talk to people. I'm like that guy that never shuts up. Like it's funny. I'm an introvert, but like.
Which really surprised me when you told me that. I'm like, you are the one that I mean, is everyone an introvert? Because I am an introvert, but if you are, that's crazy.
But like, I'm an introvert, like when it comes to spending my time with people. Like, I don't want to go hang out on the weekends with like
Small
anybody,
talk.
but like, I'm just like, that's whatever. But like, if I'm just like, I'm sitting in the sauna at the gym, like I'm like, let's shoot the breeze. Let's talk. Like, what do?
Yeah.
And so like, it's just funny. Like, in talking with all these people, I love hearing their stories. Like that's why this podcast is so cool.
Yeah.
Because you get to hear people's stories. But in talking to these people, you find that like, man, you can make money in so many different ways. It doesn't matter what your trade is. Like blue collar, white collar, it doesn't matter. Like there's money to be made. Having that abundance mindset is what's going to help you to stay patient and know that like, hey, if I stick it out with what I know and the skill set that I have, like your friends has said, or the guy that you listen to, I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
Like while everyone else is jumping ship, going to the shiny object, they're just having to start all over again.
Yeah.
And they're never getting to that place where like, hey, I can become a master of this, right? I can become the subject matter expert, the consultant, the guy that knows exactly what to do to grow this thing, right? Yeah. So from a business standpoint, that's what I learned, right? Don't try and win at somebody else's game. It's a losing strategy, right? But then, obviously on a personal level, like I said, I mean, realizing the prioritization of what is most important, right? Like you got to prioritize the things in your life that matter the most. And at the end of the day, like, that's not going to be chasing some, $1 million idea that's just you're hoping to make $1 million overnight. Like it's probably not going to happen. If it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
It
right?
is. Yep.
And so I think, like I said, prioritizing the other pillars in my life that are more important to me, that's what brought me the fulfillment that I thought that the money would.
Yeah.
Right.
So, with all that said, do you feel like you are in a place now with your career, with this business that you're starting up? Do you feel like that might be the solution? Like, are you excited about the direction that's going to take you? Or are you still kind of like, man, I don't know if I found like the thing that I'm super passionate about that's going to, just curious.
Yeah, that's a great question. So if I'm being real, payments isn't something that gets me like excited and out of bed in the morning, right? It's just not. It's like, I don't think most people think that way. Yeah. Like they're like, oh, you know what? I'm excited to get a merchant account set up today. Like I'm excited about that. That's cool. But I think what is exciting to me is having a creative outlet that's mine, that I can grow and build. And that's what's exciting about entrepreneurship to me. It always has been. A big reason why I left corporate America for a short period was just because I was like, you know what? I'm tired of taking orders. I want to just see. I don't want to have that what if at the back of my mind, wondering like, what if I would have taken a chance and tried something?
Yeah.
And, like I said, I've tried those other ventures, but those were things that I was trying to win at somebody else's game. But like, what if I tried something that I know, an industry that I'm familiar with, and truly feel I can help, right? And so for me, it's more the building of the business that's exciting. It's not necessarily the industry in and of itself, but it's something that I'm familiar with, right? Yeah. And so I do feel like it's an answer for me. I think I'm excited about it. Things are, it was a slow start and things are starting to take off for me. So I'm excited about that. And then,
good.
Obviously in the long run, time will tell, but, you can always pivot, but I've lived by my life by the concept of like a winner is really just a loser that gave it one more try, and at the end of the day, I'm like, here I am, I'm giving it one more try. Right. And I think it's a better shot that I have.
Yeah. So. And that honestly, what this is all about, and I think that's Michael Jordan, right? Like the greatest basketball athlete of all time. Sorry, LeBron. He's not even in the conversation. We'll just end
Oh
that
man,
right
we
here.
won't have that combo, I guess.
But I love it, and really, and I guess you could lump Kobe Bryant in this conversation easily as well. Was just like that mentality that they wanted to put in. Oh, hey Siri. But just the idea that they. It was mental first. Like clearly they had this incredible gift given to them and they had a lot of the tools necessary to make it work. But it was all about like their sheer will to just win and focus. And I think that, again, just going back to the consistency and the focus, in this day and age, in this world that we live in, there is an insane amount of distractions, right? Like Siri just comes on and, our phones are pinging and we're hearing, Amazon Echo pinging and this is just while we're sitting here, right? In the last 10 minutes, there are distractions everywhere. I can't imagine someone like if they were in a time capsule or something, let's say they were frozen in time in 1920 and then all of a sudden 100 years later, they're like, what in the world? I just think it would blow their mind. But I think again, those that are extremely successful just have found a way to just hone in and just be laser focused. Be like, I'm going to be the greatest at this one specific thing, and so that's for me. I've obviously gone in a very similar path to you, not the same, different, ways that you did it, but very similar in that I was bouncing. And so now, I finally, at age 40, I think I've realized, okay, I think I actually really like what I'm doing, in this space. And I'm trying my darnest to just like put the blinders on, pretend I don't see anything else out there, and it has been fulfilling, obviously, to see like, okay, it's starting to go. But now the trick is always just like, okay, like stay the course. Don't give up and go that way.
Yeah, you're talking about a concept that is in a book that I love. It's Atomic Habits. I don't know. I'm sure James a billion Clear, people talk about that book, but I mean, he talks about like success is really just understanding how to not get bored, right? Like you can do something consistently and you just don't get bored.
Huh.
And he talks about that in his book, right? Maybe it's not his book. It's in his newsletter. I know it's James Clear.
Yeah.
But that's what he said is he said the most successful people are people who understand how to not get bored once they've hit that place where they're being successful and they consistently doing the things they know they need to be doing.
Man,
so
I need to read that again. Yeah, I don't remember that part, but that's spot on. So.
Yeah, no, it's a cool concept, and I think that another book that like has really helped me with like the honing in, right? Like you said, and finding like what is it that I'm going to do and what am I going to stick with? Is the book Essentialism. I don't know if you ever heard of that book.
You told me about it, and I think I actually bought the book and have not listened to it.
Oh, it's so good, man. Talks a lot about just learning to say no. Like sometimes we are naturally programmed to be yes men and yes women. Like it's just we want to say yes. We don't like feeling like we're letting people down, but at the end of the day, like sometimes we are more efficient and we're more effective when we learn to just say no, limit what we are really focusing in on, and doing it.
Love that. Man, so smart. Awesome. Any other, I guess, lessons learned from, really this of just the realization that it's all about, focus. Is there anything else now, I guess, like concrete stuff that you're doing in your life now that maybe you weren't doing, over the last 10 years where you've been skipping around? Are there habits, going to James Clear, that you are now implementing in your life to make sure that you're staying focused?
Yeah. So balance is very important for me. I kind of mentioned that, this realization that like money isn't everything and like the hustle and bustle is great. Like staying busy is better than being bored for sure. Mm-hmm. But also like you got to hone it, like keep it in check. Right. Yeah. And so for me, one of the habits I've tried to instill is like, I have these, what I call big boulders that I'm trying to like move each day. Right. And like, typically what I'm doing is I'm tying those to like an aspect of my life that's what I call a pillar. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, a pillar of my life may be like my like being a husband, right? And then another pillar is like being a dad. Another pillar is like being a CEO, right? Another pillar is being, at church, right? In spirituality. And another pillar is physical fitness, right? Like I have these pillars. Mm-hmm. And really, what I try to do is I try to say, okay, what are the big rocks that I need to move, right? The big boulders.
Yeah.
What things are hindering me from, taking my, my business, my job as a dad, or as a husband to the next level. And then I kind of focus on those each day. So I try and say like, okay, if I had 3 things that I need to do today, like for, these pillars, what would they be? And as long as I can get those off the checklist, I know we've talked about checklists aren't like a good thing, but for me, that helps me to just keep that balance, because sometimes I may have 3 things that aren't even business related that I need to get done that day. And so if I get anything business related done that day, it's a win, right? Because if I did those other 3 things, right, then I'm like, okay, I'm not feeling out of balance, right? Because I think stress and anxiety is really just a misplacement of priorities. Yeah. And so for me, I'm more effective if I can, worry about the efficiency of those things, right? And the prioritization of my big boulders and my pillars, right? So that's kind of something that I've tried to do. And like I said, those other ventures, when I failed, it was because, all the big rocks were all business related, right? Yeah. And so in other aspects of my life, I felt like I was failing. And and as you fail in those other aspects of life, it's very hard to succeed even in business, right? Because you just don't have that momentum. You don't have that inertia that you talked about earlier, where it's like you need to feel like you're succeeding where you care to succeed. Otherwise, you're going to be out of alignment.
Man. Yeah, that hit me. That's such, Ed Milet, for all those that listen. I always love his podcast because I was like, stop, rewind. You need to listen to the last 30 seconds right there. That's good stuff. Right? So like, I totally had that go through my head while you were talking. I'm like, this is it. For me at least, and I think that where I fail, I love rocks, pebbles, sand. Right, you got to take care of the rocks, in the jar first, and then the pebbles, and then the sand will be filler. Right. And a lot of times in life, in business, any phase of life, usually when you're off, it's because you put the sand in first, and then you're trying to jam in the rocks and the sand, and they won't fit anymore because you just filled it with a bunch of crap. So I feel like I've been pretty good about that this year. Darren Hardy has been, something like I have his journal, and I've been trying to be better about that. But where I have failed and where I need to work so much more on is if you were to look at my journal and my rocks, you'd be like, where's the time for like spirituality? Where's the time for your family, right? And because right now I think I've been so laser focused on career and new business and starting that up, and so man, like it's just, and to your point, the issue I feel when people do that is they become one-dimensional, right, as a person. And if you're not talking about business, I'm guilty. I'm speaking to myself right now. If you're not talking about business, then I don't want to talk to you, because I'm like, I got nothing else to talk about, because that's all that I think about. Right. And then I become a very boring person. And my wife is probably like, dude, come on. Like, can you please talk about anything other than that? So that hit me where it's like, okay, you got to be intentional about doing those things. Otherwise, it's just, water just flows to where the path of least resistance, and that for me is business, right? That's what I enjoy. So love that, man. Thanks for sharing that. Were you grabbing a quote or something?
I was gonna say, like, dude, you got to read Essentialism. There's so I have notes just on a lot of, like, every book that I read or listen. I don't actually read, I listen, because I feel like I never have time to just sit down and read. Three Crazy Kids. But I try and take notes, and I don't know, like, for some reason, as you were talking, I just thought of this quote that's in that book where he says, "What if society encouraged us to reject doing things we detest, to buy things we don't need with money we don't have, to impress people we don't like?" and in reality, like so much of what we do is just like we're led to believe something because that's what society has, the narrative of society, right? Like the narrative of society is like, you need to be successful in business. You need to make a lot of money. You need to have all the things. And so naturally we're inclined to focus all of our attention on doing that, right? Like I want to hone in on business, like make sure my business is booming so that I'm successful in the eyes of society, even if that's not what we consider success ourselves, right? And so, like I said, I mean, failure after failure has taught me, like, look, even if you were successful in those things, like if you're failing as a father, or if you're failing as a husband, or you're failing your social, your relationships, like your friends, and you're unhealthy. Like true wealth isn't just money. True wealth is time. True wealth is health. True wealth is, a bunch of other things other than just money. And so like, I think that those, that focus on prioritization and balance in our lives is really, that's having an abundance mindset. That's when you're, the business will take care of itself, right? If you're balanced in your life. So at least for me, that I believe that full-heartedly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I've seen it. And it's, to your point, you think about Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, right? I mean, they clearly, money's no longer an issue like that. That's foregone conclusion. They'll never be able to spend it. But then you look at their families, right? Like their wives, and and they're no longer with them. And you just wonder. I obviously I would never get in the same room, I'm sure, with either one of them. But I would be curious to ask them that question. Like, was it worth it? Like,
right.
Was all that money and success and worldly accolades, was it worth it? Maybe it was to them. I don't know. I know it wouldn't be for me, but it does put things in perspective. So, man, thank you for this has been fun. And it's one of those things where I know we could talk. You and I could obviously talk forever.
A spitball.
For
hours.
It's one of my favorite things to do. But anyways, really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else, I guess, parting wisdom or any other thoughts that you had?
No, I'm just grateful you guys had me on, and hopefully I was able to impart some knowledge. I know I'm a little bit of a scatterbrain, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here and to learn from you guys, and hopefully somebody learns from something I said today. So
I know they will. Now, where can people find you? And we'll obviously put it in the show links as well. But do you have a website or anything like that set up yet, or are you still working on?
Still working on getting the website. Cool. So yeah, I would say LinkedIn. Like, connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I will attest to that. He's very active on LinkedIn and does a great job.
I try to
love your posts. So. Yeah, LinkedIn is a great place to find you. But,
and I can get you as soon as we have the website up and running. I can get you.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll throw it on the show links for anyone that wants to learn more about how they can save money and not give away 3% equity in their company. To Stripe, and so man, that's interesting. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the show.
Sweet. Thanks for having me.
Yep.